Hello, everyone. Welcome. See, we have a lot of people coming in. That's amazing. We'll just wait a couple of minutes for everyone in the waiting room to make it into the session, and then we'll introduce ourselves.
Hi everyone, this is Isis Jimenez with CIEE. I'm here helping out with Q&A and questions. So we do have the chat disabled, so please do submit any questions you have through the Q&A, and I'll be here answering them to you and also curating the most voted questions to our alumni to answer for you. So see you in the Q&A.
Wait just one more minute. I saw the number climbing there for a little bit. I'll wait one more minute for last minute joiners. Okay, we have a good group. The attendees coming in have slowed down a bit, so we'll go ahead and start. My name is Skylar. I am a regional manager in New York City for CIEE. I'm here with Isis, who's in Florida. She covers Florida and Georgia, and we're here with two CIEE summer alumni, Andrew and Alison. We're so happy they're here with us because they can share firsthand their experience on two very different kinds of programs. But their programs have one thing in common, which is that they both have the homestay experience, which is why we're here and what we're here to talk about and learn about. The homestay experience is something that makes our summer programs so unique. They're so different from a typical tour or an experience where you might go home to a hotel at the end of the day, and that they give students the opportunity to build really meaningful relationships with locals in the community that they're learning in. With a host family, families can come in all shapes and sizes so they can show our students kind of what their family makeup is and what authentic living really means in a place like Kyoto or Santo Domingo, Dominican Republic. So those are the locations we're going to learn about from our alumni. But all of our language programs have this homestay element, and a lot of our service programs have it as well. So students in those programs get this opportunity. Just a little bit of background about myself. Throughout high school and college, I studied Italian and Spanish, and I had a couple opportunities to have host families in my language learning journey. And like many of you, that made me very nervous. I was thinking to myself, how am I going to communicate with, a family that are at first strangers to me when I'm a beginner in this language, and how is this going to work, and is this going to be really awkward? And then you'll just be amazed at how a few days go by and you get the jitters out and you realize that it's actually pretty fun to just take risks in the language and just try your best to communicate. And it's not always perfect. You learn that it's okay to make mistakes with your language because the ultimate goal is communication. and growing your relationship with that family. So I can speak from experience, and we'll hear our alumni's experience as well, that it's so rewarding, and it gives you a chance to understand what it's really like to live in that place, what the day-to-day is like with a family from the other side of the world. And it really helps our students broaden their global perspectives, which helps them to get the most out of the experience. So we'll go ahead and get started. So a little bit of background about CIEE. We've been doing this for a very long time. We are the longest running cultural exchange nonprofit in the US. We've been doing this for over 75 years, or since after World War II, with the goal of building as many opportunities as possible for students and professionals in all walks of life to have an intercultural experience to promote peaceful relations. We support over 30,000 students every year. A few thousand of those students are our summer high school students, like our alumni today, and students like yourselves who are applying to our programs. We're a nonprofit organization, and we administer the largest scholarship fund for high school students to study abroad in the country. Over half of our students that travel with us go on a scholarship, which makes study abroad more possible for more students, which is really important to us and how our program was founded. Here is our map. You may have seen it already if you have had a student presentation at your school, but this map shows you everywhere in the world where we have a study center. Every dot that you see is where we have a summer program, and then there are some added colors in there that show you where we also have semester abroad opportunities for students to spend an entire semester in a given city. And also in purple is where we have gap year opportunities. So gap year, students typically take that right after high school, between high school and college, and it gives them a chance to study a language in that city for a semester or a full year before they enter university. So you can take a look, maybe see where you're already applying to. If you haven't opened up an application yet, you can kind of scan and see which destination is calling to you. Maybe you are attracted by a particular country, or maybe you're someone that wants to look at the programs first and see which one stands out to you and matches your interests. Our alumni today studied in Kyoto, Japan. And tell me, Alison, was it Santo Domingo or Santiago where you went?
I went to Santiago de los Caballeros.
Okay, I thought I read somewhere Santo Domingo, so maybe something was miswritten, but that's right. Our study center is in Santiago. I also got the chance in college to study abroad in Santiago for 3 weeks. I stayed with a host family there, so we probably had a similar experience. Yes, this is our map of everywhere our students are going in 2024. And just a reminder, as Isis shared, our chat is disabled. So we'll be using the Q&A feature, and Isis will be looking at that throughout the webinar. So if you have a question that comes up, you can go ahead and write it in the Q&A. It will go straight to her, and then we'll either answer that directly in the chat, or we'll bring it up during our Q&A session toward the end. So a little overview about our language programs. These all have a homestay element. We have language programs in 7 languages that you can see here. They're numbered because when we're in person, I like to just see a show of hands of what language you would choose if you could choose any of them. So students typically hold up a 1 or a 5 or a 7, depending on which language they want to study. So you can, even though we can't see you, you can go ahead and think to yourself which language you would choose. But these are 4 weeks long. Our language programs are all 4 weeks, so nearly a month of full immersion language courses. And the goal of these programs is to be fully immersed in the language from morning until night. And we do this through our homestay experience. So students are, staying with their family, sharing breakfast with them, dinner with them. Typically, on the weekends, our families will kind of take their student out to see their day-to-day, maybe some shops that they visit or an excursion together. And then we also have intensive classes in the morning. So a few hours of class where our students are immersed in the language. They are committed to sticking to the target language with their professors and their program leaders. And then we have cultural activities in the afternoon and something that we call community conversations. So that's when students are encouraged to go out into the community to use their language skills with locals, so that they're pushed to use it in the real world right away, every day in different environments. A perk of the language programs is that students can opt to receive 4 college credits from Tulane University. So that's 1 college class out of the way, which is an amazing thing to check off the list over a high school summer. From our growth assessments that we administer to students, we see that students can improve in just 1 month with CIEE as much as they might over a year of school, just due to the immersive nature and how the curriculum and experiences are condensed into those 4 weeks, which is amazing. And something else they can receive is something called the Global Seal of Biliteracy. That is a certification that some schools offer, but not often. But that's nationally recognized, that shows a student has functional proficiency or professional working proficiency in a language. And students can receive that if they get a 5 or higher on our post-assessment test. So if a student starts as a very beginner in a language, they might not receive that. But if a student has already taken some Japanese in high school, for example, places into a higher level in our program, and then exits the program with a 5 or higher on our stamp assessment, they can receive that certification from us. So this goes into a bit about how we vet our host families for language and culture. So all of our host families are vetted and visited by our local staff. So in each of our study centers, we have local staff that work there year round, which is really important because they're local to that area. They build relationships with the host families throughout the year. So it's not our US team that's going back and forth, but we have that local staff committed to sharing their city and culture and family network with students. So our families are required to undergo a local background check. Anyone that's 18 and older who lives in the home must undergo that background check before any student may stay with them. We do home visits to the home to make sure that the space is adequate and that it's a comfortable environment for the student. Undergo interviews to make sure that those families are also motivated by intercultural exchange. So our families are just as curious to learn about our students as they are to learn about their home culture. And they receive just a small stipend to cover meals for your student. So that's something that they receive just to cover the cost of food. Host families also undergo an orientation altogether each year. Most of our host families stay in our network each summer, so they host repeatedly. And then any new programs we have, we build that network based on referrals from our local staff. So as I mentioned before, host families come in all shapes and forms. So you might have a family with children that still live in the home. You might have a retired individual or couple whose children are grown and out of the house, or maybe they're in college and come home every now and then. So it really just depends. Most host families don't speak English. This is not a requirement because we want to encourage our students to stick to the target language in their communication. So we don't require that they speak English, but we give student strategies to communicate each day when they're in class. They bring prompts home that they can use with their families that gives them questions that they can ask that are on their level. And then we train families as well to communicate best with novice learners. We get a lot of questions from students. Can I request a roommate? I'm applying with a friend. Can I stay with them? There is a section on your application where you can request this. Our team always looks at it and we see what we can do to accommodate, but we don't recommend that request. Since our summer abroad courses are about building independence and new friendships with students from all over the country. So if you're in the same program as a friend of yours, that's great. It's going to be an amazing experience together, but we also want to encourage you to be open-minded to building new relationships as well. But typically you would be in a home with another student from the program, but not always. It just depends on the capacity that the family has to host and how much room they have. There's always a place on your application where you can indicate any allergies you have or dietary restrictions so that we can review that to make sure your family can accommodate that and that we can accommodate it as well when we have group meals. So here are a couple quotes. We have Andrew here with us and then Araceli, who was in another session. Just some quotes about what they learned from their host family. Andrew said that his host family taught him many things about life in Japan. They helped him improve his language skills, taught him how to cook authentic Japanese foods, and helped give him an experience that he'll never forget, which we love to hear. And then Araceli shared that while she was in Mexico, her host family taught her about Yucatecan culture, Mayan history, local culture and social norms, some Spanish grammar, and so much that added to her experience. So she was with a host family in our Spanish language and culture program in the Yucatan Peninsula, which is in Merida, and Andrew was in Kyoto in Japanese language and culture in Japan. Okay. So I believe these were Araceli slides. She's not here with us tonight because
I
she was.
actually am here. I had a little bit of technical difficulty, so I joined a
Worries.
little bit late.
Hi, Araceli. No, I wasn't expecting you because you weren't on the list. So that's great. So yeah,
Yeah,
if you want
thanks
to
so
jump
much.
in and share your slides, that would be great.
Okay, so I went to Mexico and I was staying in Yucatan with a host family, obviously. I was with a single mother who had she had 3 kids, but only 2 were living with us. And they helped me transition into the language because I got lucky. My host mom actually spoke quite a bit of English, which helped because me and my host sister, who I was paired with, which I'm from Chicago, and my host sister actually was also from Chicago. So that was pretty cool to find out. And since neither of us were super skilled at our language, it was like she made it a really easy transition for us. And she really gave us like a good like home like feeling, and I didn't feel like super lonely at all. And she made me feel very comfortable where I was. And like at the bottom, I put some pictures of my first couple of days there, and like I was already really close with them like right away. Everything felt very homey and very nice.
Amazing. Thank you for putting this together. And how was it with the children in the home? Did you interact with them a lot? Were they usually there?
They were usually there. I mean, they also had school, but like when we would eat dinner, we would talk with them, and like in the mornings, I would see them. And I wasn't as close with them as my host sister was. My host sister was definitely more close with them, but I still talked to them a lot, and like they were very much fun. And we went to this mall once, and they were showing me around, and it was just so much fun.
Awesome. And how was it getting from your home to the study center? What is that like in Merida?
My host mom was actually very close friends with another family who was hosting, so we actually carpooled. My host mom would drive home from the CIEE Yucatan Center to our house and to the other family's house, and then the other family would take me there with them. And one thing that definitely surprised me was like differences in like how people drive. It was very different, and honestly, it was just different. And like, yeah, I don't know what else to say with that. Because we did the carpool, so I got to interact with other people who were in the program with me, and I definitely got very close with that family, and we hung out a lot, and we still talk to like today, months after.
Yeah, I think on the next slide, you had some messages which were so sweet. So you can kind of talk through these photos that you included and kind of what they represent about your experience.
Yeah, I kind of just put here like experiences that I had like because of my host family. Like at the top, I have a picture of my roommate because like we we were in the same class too, so we wanted to like get to know each other since we were living together. So we spent a whole day going out, and it was honestly one of my best days there. We had so much fun just getting to know each other because we also knew so much like already about each other just living in the same place. And then in the next section, I have a bunch of like food pictures because I'm Mexican, so I already have a bunch of Mexican food at my house. But like going to there and having my host mom cook and trying so many different foods and like variations of foods, it was just so nice. And I'm a coffee drinker, and my host mom figured that out right away. She started making me coffee every morning because she knew I liked it, and it was amazing, especially since it was cold, and she knew that like in Mexico it's so much hotter than it is here, so she knew that by having a cold drink it would help me just like with the temperature differences, and she was just able to like adjust to my needs so easily, which is something I really appreciated. And then over in the corner, I have some experiences she took us on. Whenever I wasn't out with like friends or anything, she usually took me and my host sister to a mall or to like one time she took us to the zoo and we had like made it a whole day and it was so much fun. We went to the zoo, we went to the mall, went like, clothes shopping, we ordered pizza and it was just like a nice day to get to know like Yucatecan culture and how it wasn't that region of Mexico and what her daily life was like and how other locals' daily life would be. At the bottom, oh, the pictures in the airport. It was so sad because she couldn't stay for very long because she had like to prepare for the next family because the very next day she had other kids coming in. So she couldn't stay for very long. But saying goodbye was definitely very hard because I mean I lived with her for 4 weeks. It's like a whole other family that I made that I had to just leave. But it wasn't horrible because obviously in the pictures you can see that we still message and we still talk from time to time. So it's really nice to know that like especially with like technology, we can still be in touch.
Yeah, those messages are so sweet. I had a similar experience. I was telling Allison earlier, I had also studied in Dominican Republic with a host family for 3 weeks, and it's just amazing how sad you are when you leave sometimes with your host families, just after knowing them for such a short time. Yeah, living with a family is just really unique and it does make you emotional when you have to leave that. You probably said this already, but I might have missed it. Did you know your roommate before,
I
or
did not.
was it okay? And were you guys in the same language level or different
We actually were,
classes?
yeah, we were.
Okay, great. Yeah. So how was that? Were you in the same room? Were you in a different room?
We were in two different rooms, but like they were right next to each other, so it's like it didn't change anything that much, it just gave us a little bit more privacy sometimes. But yeah, we were in two different rooms. They were about the same size, same stuff in them. They definitely like were her kids' rooms beforehand, and like I don't know how my host mom did it, but like I think her kids moved out into a different room for a little bit of time. But yeah,
Okay, got it. Yeah, so if you're listening, sometimes students will have a roommate, but they'll be in a different room. Sometimes they will share the same room. Just depends on the size of the home and what the family is able to accommodate. So thank you so much, Araceli, for sharing your experience. These photos are so sweet. Everyone raves about the Mexico program. Everyone loves it there. They say it's beautiful. They love the host families there. We have a really great staff in Mexico. So I'm happy that we get to see some highlights here. Next, we'll move on to Allison. So Allison, you can share what program you did. It's a little different because Allison did not do a language program, but one of our service programs that also has a homestay element. Because remember, most of our non-language programs, students stay in a dorm. So this is a unique experience that we have with our program in DR. So Allison, when you're ready, you can go ahead and share what you put together.
Yeah, so over the summer, I went to the Dominican Republic, specifically Santiago de los Caballeros, which is like the city area of the DR. I chose the Leadership and Service in Public Health program simply because I'm really interested in like the health field, And I just thought like it would be a good idea, like pursuing in another program that relates to that. And it definitely did help because I'm like really interested in like public health and like learning more about that. So definitely something I would like to do in college. Um, so I was in a homestay, as you may know. I had one homestay mom and then two roommates. One of the roommates was from Massachusetts and the other is from Texas. Um, so it was really interesting, like getting to know them and like how like their different lifestyles and and then like also like getting to know each other in that like homestay we were at. At the homestay, at the bottom of the picture, like that was basically like our living area. We had access to like this balcony area, and like we can see like the outside of the neighborhood. And then inside the building we were at is like an apartment. We were on the third floor, so and inside, I guess, like the apartment, there was three rooms. Room was for my homestay mom, and then the other I had alone, and then the other room was for my two roommates who shared a room. So it was really nice, just having like that area where we were all like close together, and yeah. So for my program specifically, we because it's like public health, we visited NGOs, which is non-governmental organizations, and just like had our service there. But just going back to like the homestay, I thought it was a really great experience because I was able to get like that direct experience about like the Dominican culture and learning more about it, and also like trying the amazing foods. The foods there were so good. Like our homestay mom, she gave us like a new meal like every like day, and it was really great like trying the new things. One of my favorite dishes would have to be mango, and it consists of salami, uh, like mashed plantains, eggs, and fried cheese. It was so delicious. Definitely something I'm craving now again. But yeah.
Amazing. Thank you so much. And yeah, I can definitely relate to the food stories because yeah, Dominican food, they're very proud of it and they're all such good cooks. So that's typically what you eat every day. Um, in the meantime, I just want to draw attention to Allison's referral code that's on the screen. So if you haven't opened an application yet, you can scan the code to get a discount off your application. So you can take advantage of that if you haven't yet opened your app. But yeah, this is a great way to explore the public health field. A lot of students ask us, do you have anything medical related? This would be the closest option. So it's great that we have Allison here that can share. And next we have Andrew. Andrew spent 4 weeks in Kyoto, Japan. So Andrew, when you're ready, you can share a bit about what you put together, and then I'll have a few questions after Andrew shares that I'll open up to each of you guys. Okay.
Okay. Traveled to Kyoto this summer for a Japanese language and culture program, and it was certainly a really amazing experience, and I got to do so many different things that I never thought I could do. Um, my host family is in the top left corner. That was when we visited the cup noodles factory in Osaka, and our host family consisted of three children and two parents. I really liked playing games with the children because they were just so fun to be around and really cheerful. And at first when I got to Japan, I didn't know how to commute to my classes, so they helped me commute to my classes for the first week or so, and after that I could gradually do it on my own. Um, the mom cooked really, really good food, and she helped me learn how to cook some traditional Japanese food as well. And my host dad also taught me how to cook takoyaki, which is a traditional Japanese street food. And they also took me to many different places here, such as the various temples and shrines near the Kyoto area, which is famous for having a lot of them. And I also had a day where I wore traditional kimono at a local theme park, and it was really a really cool experience. Um, yeah, so they also helped me talk to locals better because before I was very shy about talking to other strangers, especially people on the street. And one of the tasks that we had for our language program was to have community conversations, which involved talking to random people on the street about any topic that we were assigned. And my host family really helped me get better at talking to other people as well as improve my Japanese language skills. So yeah.
Thank you so much, Andrew. Did you have a second slide? I can't remember, or is it just
No,
this
I
one?
don't.
Okay, perfect. I didn't want to ignore that one. So that's awesome photos. It just beautiful. One day I'll get there. Japan is super popular. I'm sure that some of you guys who joined tonight are applying. We have two Japanese language and culture programs, one in Kyoto, one in Tokyo. And then next summer, we also have a video game design program and our pop culture program, which is focused on anime manga. So lots of options both for the arts and language. I have a question for you guys related to your commute. I know you all kind of mentioned how you got to class. I'm just curious, and we can start with Andrew and then go to Allison, then Araceli. How long would you say your commute was? How long did it take for you guys to get from your home to the study center?
For me, I think it depended on the day because at first, I couldn't take advantage of the trains because in Japan, most train lines have three different speeds, which are local, limited express, and express. So once I got the hang of taking the fastest trains, I could get to my school in around half an hour. But before it took like almost an hour, I would say.
Okay. Yeah, typically we tell students and families that commutes are typically an hour or less, and especially in larger cities, it can get closer to an hour. How about you, Allison?
So our learning center was like on a university campus, and luckily it was like really close to like all of our homestays. Um, for me, it took like about max 10 minutes, like arriving to the learning center, and like it's something different that is like interesting, I guess, would be that we all like shared one bus. So there was one bus that like was used from day one to the last day, and at the DR it's called a Wawa, and it basically like transports like all of us, only like the CIE students, because like it's another like safety procedure that they took. So yeah, 10 minutes arriving to our learning center, and then arriving to the place like where we did our volunteering, it took about 20 minutes.
Thank you. How about you, Araceli?
So for me, Merida isn't a super large city, and then the CIE center was around the center of it. So I live pretty close to the edge of Merida, and it only took me around 20 minutes driven.
Yeah. Yeah, I know that Merida and some other locations they're more in closer proximity to the study centers, but some of our locations like Paris and Toulouse, Madrid and Rome, those sites, students can be placed further out based on where our families live. But the most important thing is that, families are hosting for the right reasons and that they are, welcoming and safe families for students. So that's what we prioritize. And then we make sure that students are comfortable and confident in commuting, just like Andrew was sharing that, his family was helping him out in the beginning. And then when he was ready to go independently, he could. So that's typically our process for commutes. Okay. So just a reminder that we have a deadline coming up around December 1st, where we encourage students to apply by that time in order to enter into a raffle for a free flight. Our tuition covers everything while students are on program. So all meals, all housing, all excursions, cultural activities, subway cards, transportation cards, but tuition does not cover airfare. So it's something to think about as you prepare for next summer, and we have a chance to win free airfare if you submit your application by December 1st. So just something to keep in mind. Also a reminder about our scholarship fund. We award over $6 million for students to go abroad each year. So if you've opened up an application, you likely chose, if you required a scholarship or if you were interested in trying for a scholarship, you could choose between two scholarships. One is merit and financial need. The other is merit only. They have different eligibility and different advantages and disadvantages, which are explained in the application and on our website. So it just depends on what's best for you and your family. And then if you are applying for a scholarship, the deadline for that is January 24th. So after that, we will only be accepting students who are enrolling directly. Okay. So I'm actually gonna go back a moment to our first slide. Oops, sorry about that. I'll start with our first slide just to ask a few questions to, oh, it doesn't want me. There it goes. I thought it was gonna force me to stay on the last slide. I just had a few questions to kind of give to our alumni, and then we have some questions coming in the Q&A that ISIS is answering in that chat. And if I see one that is a frequently asked question or one that's gone unanswered, I can pose it to the alumni. But my first question would be, what's one piece of advice you guys wish you had before traveling to your location? So something you wish you had known or advice you wish that someone would have given before your program. So Araceli, if you want to start, if you need a minute to think, that's fine. But what do you think you would have liked to have known?
I think definitely someone would have told me to just be more out there because I was very shy. It was like such a different experience for me, and I was very shy that first week. And I wish I just spoke to my host family more so that I would have been able to have that bond because I was only there for 4 weeks, and now I just wish I could go back all the time. So if I was just more open and more talkative and more just open to conversation and bonding, that I would have had just that extra couple of days to bond with my family.
Yeah, I understand that. It's hard at first because you're pushed out of your comfort zone. You're kind of out of your shell, oftentimes for the first time, but it's great advice just to tell students to, go ahead and get out there and go for it so you can get the most out of it. How about you, Allison?
So this might seem silly, but something I definitely regret would be not bringing like enough mosquito repellent. Because at the DR, that was something I definitely like needed and kind of regretted not having because one of the days I got like really bitten by like mosquitoes. But my homestay mom definitely helped me with that, and like she provided me with some repellent. So
Sorry, I was muted. Yes, my experience in the Dominican Republic, I had a mosquito net around my bed also to protect against that. And they are there all the time, just singing in the evenings, and they're around during the day. So definitely something to keep in mind if you're in an area where mosquitoes are a factor. How about you, Andrew? Any advice you wish you had gotten before going to Kyoto?
One thing that I do regret a lot is not packing or not bringing a bigger suitcase because I had packed my suitcase pretty full when I left, and I'd expected to have some room when I came back, but I really didn't really have enough room to pack all the souvenirs I had, so I had to stuff it in everywhere and even have some friends help me bring it back.
My goodness, that is interesting. Sometimes our students bring way too much. So definitely want you to strike a balance there so you don't have to lug around too much because you will get a chance to do some laundry, but want to make sure that you're not running out of anything either. So Good advice, guys. Maybe one more question that I have for you guys, and then I can look at some of the questions we've been getting. I know Isis has been good at answering you all. But let's see. Maybe now that you guys are back in school, how do you feel like you look back on your experience? Like, did it change anything for you guys at school or in your lives or your future plans? Maybe how it's changed your perspective in that way. Allison, we can start with you if that's okay.
Yeah. So I feel like now, after this summer abroad experience, I find myself to be a lot more outgoing and someone like who's actually like initiating conversations because like that was definitely something I pushed myself to do over like my summer abroad experience, and I think that it carried on to like my new school year and definitely has helped me like make new friendships.
How about you, Araceli?
For me, academically, it definitely changed how I was because I actually was able to skip a level in Spanish. Being there just like helped my flow and helped my confidence, and I was able to take a test and move forward. Um, I mean, it did change some future plans I have because I was kind of unsure about CIE. At first, I was just waiting to see if I got a scholarship, and then that would have determined if I went or not. And I did, and I ended up going. And now I definitely think that I want to go again in a couple years, in like 2 years. I definitely want to go again. And yeah, just like the whole experience kind of just changed how I viewed so many things and just made me a lot more excited about these experiences.
Amazing. I'm so happy to hear you were able to skip a level in Spanish. That happens fairly often, actually, that students come back and they're comfortable skipping into a higher level at school. How about you, Andrew? How do you look back at your experience?
I think it definitely made me a more outgoing person as well, and I find myself being able to talk to people better now because before I was a pretty shy person, but now I think because of my experience traveling abroad, I've gotten more independent and able to talk to others. And I also think that it's made me want to study abroad again, so I definitely want to try studying abroad again in the future.
Yeah, there's so many opportunities, the summer opportunity is so unique in that a bite-sized period of time abroad and gives you a chance while you're younger and still in high school to have that international experience. And then, of course, college lends itself to so many other options. I've also done things like, internships abroad or work abroad for different periods of time. So typically we might think of study abroad as, a semester in college, which is an amazing opportunity, but we don't realize there's so many more different structures of programs. So we encourage you guys to keep looking for those and taking advantage of them because they're all beneficial for different reasons. And they help you meet different goals. So it's great to hear that you want to go abroad again. So I'm just reading over some of the questions. We had a question about classes during the language programs. So maybe Araceli and Andrew, you guys can give a quick description of what your classes were like, kind of how long they were. How would you describe what you did in those classes? So Araceli, if you want to start that one off for us.
For me, my classes started from 9, like my in the classroom time started at 9 and went until 12. Yeah, until 12. And then we had like a break for lunch, and then we would meet up again. And then we would go out into the community. We would go to like a park or anywhere where there was like a good amount of people. And then each different level would be assigned a different prompt to ask people about and record something about or take pictures. It depended on the week. And yeah, we would come back to the center and then talk about what we've talked about with people, like what we did and while we were out, and kind of just like how that relates to like whatever lesson we were doing that week.
Nice. How about you, Andrew? How would you describe your
Hmm.
language classes?
My experience was almost the exact same as that. So my classes started at 9 a.m. and usually went until around 11:30, and at which point our program leader would come in and debrief us for what we were going to do in the afternoon and assign us a community conversation and tell us what else we needed to do. And then after that, we would go out for lunch and then have an excursion somewhere in the city. And then from there, we would usually be dismissed to have free time or to just return to our home states.
A lot of our students ask, I haven't seen it in the chat, but a lot of students ask about free time, and free time can look different in different locations. So if you guys could just give your sense of, what free time was like, if you felt like you were happy with the amount of free time you got, or maybe you wish you had gotten more. If there were any rules around going around on your own, I think that would be helpful for both families and students. Andrew, if you want to go ahead and start that, and then we'll go in
Yeah.
reverse.
For us, free time just meant we could go anywhere we wanted as long as it was within an hour of the CIEE center, and that was our only restriction. Generally we could go to like a shrine or a temple or another park or maybe a restaurant or some other famous attraction, and we would just spend, I would say, we usually got dismissed from our activities at around 2, 3, 4 maybe, and we would have until later in the evening, and then we would just return to our homestays from there.
Yeah, that makes sense that after your cultural activities in the afternoons, that's what I typically tell students, is that you typically have a window of time, unless you're doing something else with a group, where you can explore before going back to your homestay, since they will likely expect you for dinner. So making sure that you're communicating with your homestay as well in terms of how long you'll be in the city. Allison, what do you think free time was like in DR?
So our free time was during the lunchtime. We had like 2 hours, and then also like later, of course, in the evening. During lunch, of course, we had lunch, but then after, like our mom, like she took us to the supermarket just to like help her out with some groceries. But of course, it was optional. But our roommates, like, we definitely wanted to help her out and just spend some more time with her. But we also went to the mall. We went thrifting, and well, I took advantage of like the free time to do some schoolwork, and yeah, I think it was a good amount of time for us.
Arcel, you can go, and then some attendees are also asking about curfew, which I don't think we've mentioned yet, and laundry. So if you could also include that in your response.
Yeah. So for Merida, I think it's definitely different than Kyoto because it's so much smaller. We were allowed to go anywhere in the city. We would just tell our host mom, obviously, because then they would come to pick us up, and like there's a whole thing. So we just tell our host mom, well, tell our host parents where we're going, and then we were allowed to go anywhere we wanted. And then I had a curfew of 10 p.m. We had to be home at 10 and then send our flight leader, not our flight leader, our program leader, a picture of like that we were at home, proving that we were at home. And for laundry, I'm pretty sure we're just they just did it for us. My host mom was like, so in Mexico, they're a lot more like direct. She just came into my room and did it. Honestly, I didn't even know that she was doing it in some points. But yeah, it was just kind of done for me, which it was definitely surprising because I wasn't expecting that the first week. And I know it's different for each family, but that's how mine was like.
Yeah, that's a nice way to put it, is that that's how it was for me in when I was with an Italian household, is they just go and get it done. With our other programs, our topic programs, students have to pay for or they'll have a laundry card that they can use. But that's for students living in a dorm style residence. So when students have a host family, the expectation is that the family is helping them with their laundry. We have a question about Wi-Fi. Did any of you not have Wi-Fi? I believe at this point, all of our families have Wi-Fi. Anyone not have Wi-Fi? Okay. Yeah, I know this is just, 3 of our alumni, but we get this question a lot. I would say like 99% of families will have Wi-Fi. I don't know if technically it's a requirement, but naturally, our families will have that in our bigger cities.
Yeah, I'd
Go ahead.
also like to say that we were in my program we were provided with digital Wi-Fi, which allowed us to be able to have cell service wherever we went.
Yeah, that's something we do in Japan. I think Japan only has the pocket Wi-Fi. That's a solution for our students instead of a SIM card. So that's something that all students in Japan will have as a pocket Wi-Fi that they can carry around and use at all times. We have a question. Was it ever exhausting to constantly be in a different language? How did you guys navigate that if you ever felt that way?
I
You guys
think
can.
for me, oh, sorry. I
I
think for
was just
me,
gonna say you guys can jump in. Go ahead.
I think for me it was only like ever exhausting when I was just trying to find this one word that I knew but I couldn't place, and it was just kind of like holding together that sentence, and it was just like sometimes there's just like a couple words here and there that I couldn't exactly place, but I mean I just Google translated it because it was one word. I felt like it didn't really like impact how I was, because then like my host like it would just dive into a different conversation and we just talk about like the language and like different things around that and how I can help remember that. And so really just like because we have technology, we can just help find those filler words if we're ever struggling. And but I don't think it was ever exhausting because after like the first week, I was used to it. Like my flow with Spanish, like I knew the same amount of words around like the beginning of the first and second week, but my flow just was improved so much. Just the way I was able to put words together and how fast I was able to speak just improved so much just by being there.
Anyone else have feedback on challenges staying in the language, or if your family didn't speak much English, that was like?
Personally, I'm fluent in Spanish, so it wasn't much of like a hassle for me to speak Spanish at the DR. But for my roommates, like I helped them whenever like they needed some help. So I was imagine it was also helpful for them. But also our homestay mom, she knew some English, so that was also useful. And then of course, like Araceli said, there's Google Translate.
That's the last resort. Okay, well, we're about ready to wrap up. We just have a couple minutes left. We have a last question, which I actually got today at a school, which is about homework. How often would you guys say you had homework? You can just quickly answer, Araceli.
We didn't really get that much homework. We had like a project for each week, and I was able to finish that within like we were given in-class time to work on it. So all I had to do was a presentation a week, and that was really it.
Yeah. Anyone else?
Um, for me, I just had the weekly presentation as well, but I also had to write reflection journals for each week. I had to respond to 3 prompts a week, and that was around the only homework that I got.
Yeah, and then for me, we only had our daily journals. So they're just like reflections of like what we did in the day. And it was really quick. It took like max 10 minutes.
Yeah, that's the feedback I've seen too. I don't see any students saying, oh, it was too much work. It's typically, weekly kind of project that you're working on, and then reflection journals as well. So we want to, be cognizant that it's summer and you're there to enjoy it, but also making sure that you're learning and getting the most out of it. So we try to strike that balance. And I think that students give us that feedback too. Well, thank you all so much for your questions in the chat. They were really helpful to give us a full picture of the experience. And we're so fortunate that we had our alumni ambassadors with us to help. We want to remind you that we have one more day of sessions tomorrow. So you can scan the code to see the schedule for tomorrow, see if there's anything else that you want to tune into. And then all of these sessions will be recorded and posted on a web page. So we'll be reaching out with a link for how to access those once they're posted. Okay. Well, thank you all so much. We will call it here. So thank you, Araceli. Thank you, Andrew. Thank you, Allison. And thank you so much, Isis, for your help in the chat. It was extremely helpful. So everyone got their questions answered. Thank you to everyone who came. We really appreciate it. We hope this was helpful to hear from us live and not over email or a phone call for an evening. We hope you'll find the recordings helpful, and then we'll start to have our weekly workshops again starting after Thanksgiving, and those will be application support so that your students can get assistance if they need it. Okay. Thank you guys. I really appreciate it. Bye, Araceli. Bye, Andrew. Bye, Allison. The recordings will be sent to everyone. I see that question in the Q&A now. We will send out a link for those. I'm not sure the timeline, probably next week or the week after. But if you feel like it's been a bit that you haven't received that, you can reach out to us and we'll see if we can get it to you more quickly. Okay. Bye, guys. Thank you so much, Andrew. Bye, everyone.